I want to explore some mousse cakes with all of you. So first we are going to go for the most basic chocolate mousse, and then in the next few months explore an unglazed based mousse and a meringue based mousse. But first let's start with this dark chocolate mousse that only requires 3 ingredients. First, I'm starting out by making a ganache. I am going to use a double boiler to completely melt my dark chocolate, and then I'm also going to get my cream, the smaller portion, into a saucepan on my stove at the same time. I want the chocolate to be 100% melted and the cream to be at a scald before I mix them together. Now, usually for a ganache, you can just pour your hot cream over the chocolate as it is or partially melted. But because I want to leave the ganache sitting out on my counter while I make whipped cream later, and I don't want it to cool down too much, it's a little bit easier if everything is as warm as possible at the beginning while still not ruining the texture. We do not want the cream to be boiling. We don't want this to get too hot. But if you just pour the hot cream over regular chocolate without melting it first, it will bring down the temperature quite quickly. So as soon as all of the chocolate is completely melted, I'm going to pull it off my double boiler and then pour the scalded cream on top. At this point, I'm just going to use my spatula, or you can use a whisk, to mix everything together. For this small amount, I am not necessarily going to get in here with an immersion blender, but especially the more you make, the more I would recommend getting in there and really truly emulsifying everything together, even with this small size batch. If you want to emulsify everything with your immersion blender, you can. I am also adding in my sea salt at this time. I really think that it's a good idea to add sea salt to anything, especially when you're using dark chocolate. But if you don't want to, that is completely optional. So after this is all mixed together, I am just going to read it with my thermometer here. It is reading at about like 46 degrees Celsius. Now I want to add my whipped cream in when this is in like between like the mid 30s. So once it drops below 40, that's good, but we do not want this to get to 30 degrees or below that in Celsius. Otherwise, it could lead to an odd texture. So I've got my other portion of cream. It's cold, it's been in my refrigerator, and I'm just going to whip it up. I'm using a hand mixer, but you can use your stand mixer as well. I am whipping this to a soft peak. A lot of the times when you make a mousse, even though I think a lot of people, if they're just starting out, think that they should have a really, really stiff cream. No. You want your cream to be between a soft peak and a medium peak at most. It is usually best if your cream is pourable in its consistency. It sounds really weird, like your mousse won't set up right. I promise it will. So get in here, whip your cream, and then once you see that you're starting to leave tracks in the cream, you've reached about a soft peak, stop, and then let's read the temperature of our ganache again. All right, I am temping my ganache. It's reading at about 37, 38 degrees Celsius. That's great. Now I'm going to pour in my softly whipped cream in a few additions. When you are making a mousse, the first amount of cream that you pour into your ganache for a chocolate mousse is really going to just lighten the ganache that you have. We are not using this first portion for the air that it contains. This is just lightening. So if you added everything in right away, it could destroy the texture and all the air inside the cream, and it could lead to a bit of a strange texture for your mousse later on. So it's really a good idea to add this in a few additions. Then it will become easier and easier to incorporate the cream, and as you go, you may want to switch from a whisk to a spatula to fold in the cream instead of necessarily whip in the cream. You don't necessarily want to whip in too much more air than the air that is already in the whipped cream, even though it was a really soft peak. So because the cream is cold and because there is a high volume of this, as you can see, the texture is thickening up. Even though I've switched to my spatula, it is really looking so much thicker in here than it was just a second ago. So now that I have finished, I've incorporated all the ingredients into my mousse. I want to get this as quickly as possible into whatever container I am using. Now, today I'm just pouring this into some glasses. I'm making some mousse verrines. That is all. There's nothing fancy about this. If you want to use this, this is a really, really thick, stable chocolate mousse, and it is one that you could use if you're making a petit gâteau or entremet, any kind of mousse cake. This is going to be one that you could put into a silicone mold and then unmold and glaze later if you wanted to. I am just going to use an offset spatula here to flatten off the top. That is optional, just depends on the look you are going for. And then I'm going to get them into the refrigerator for at least a couple hours to completely firm up and solidify, and then they're already done. You can top this with fresh berries, with a bit of vanilla whipped cream, whatever you want. If you want to go super chocolatey, you could pour a chocolate sauce over the top of this, and we have a really simple, quite fast, easy chocolate mousse that could be a dessert all on its own. As I mentioned, this is one of the most basic styles of mousse that I want to explore for you because we are going to start building on our mousse knowledge as we go through the next several months. We're going to go through other styles of basic mousse, and then we are going to start getting into mousse cakes and petit gâteau entremet together. I'm really excited, and I hope you are too. Thanks for watching. If you give this a try, make sure to tag me in your photos so I can check out your hard work as well, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Until then, have a wonderful day. Bye!